guess I can go with that again. And then, do I still have a ton of chrysanthemum? I do. Okay, that should be enough to get these all going again. It's passive, so it's like for right now it just doesn't it doesn't make sense not to have these things going. So rather have those generating stuff that I don't need right now than try to do it when I needed it. Hey Chrono, what's up, man? How you doing? Having a fun night tonight. And yeah. And you missed it. I had my first hype train. That was kind of surprising. I got some good... I found this tonight. Yeah. So I just pulled this like maybe 20 minutes ago. My new favorite weapon. Dude, this thing has no kick to it. It does a ton of damage, and it shoots really fast, and it barely kicks. And like I can put like 90 rounds in it. Like, this is such a fun weapon. What else was I trying to do? I fed them guys. Oh yeah, I got some stuff in here. At some point I'm definitely gonna have to do a little bit more mining, but I'm sitting pretty good. I've got like 370 steel ingots and 500 iron ingots. Yeah, I was trying to remember which was my favorite one back in the day, and now I'm pretty sure this probably was it. At least it is now. Man, so how you been? What you been playing? That's the big question. I think I need to eat, right? Probably get something out of here. Ooh, we can go with the taco. Oh, that's right. I wanted to... I gotta look at... I gotta figure this... I gotta crack a book up here that I don't think I've rated yet. I think I saw it and marked it. So I might want to hit that one up. Is that this one? No. Busy last week. 12 days straight. Man. So, funny thing in the Navy. We... they have what they call duty. So every... And it varies from your command to command. So it could be like every 5 days duty, every 6 days duty. You know, some bigger commands would get up to like 14 days. Yeah, it was, you know, but it meant you had to stay on the ship or the whatever for 24 hours straight. So the biggest thing, the biggest scare on a ship is fire. You know, a fire while you're at sea, and you know that's dangerous. So every one of us is trained how to fight fires, you know, how to be a fireman. It's kind of a big thing in the Navy. And so the biggest reason for duty is security. You stand watches at the, you know, different parts of the ship. And then they have what's, everyone has positions on the fire team, the damage control team. So in the event that something happens, that duty section then responds. So I've had it before where I've had to respond to a fire on the ship, small one. Yeah, flooding, different things like that. But, you know, that's the whole purpose of it. But the hard part when you're in a 6th section is you would get like that, where you'd have like 12 straight days because you'd have, say, duty on a Saturday. So you worked like, you know, Friday, Monday through Friday, and then Saturday you're there for 24 hours. So technically you're there till like 8 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. So it was almost like you were at work for 7 straight days and then another 5. So that was one thing I don't miss at all. I know it sounds, dude, there's so many things now, and I still struggle to ask to go to the bathroom. I know. Well, the fun part though was like the last 3 years I was the section leader, so I was the guy in charge of the entire duty section, the IET, the import emergency team, the anti-terrorism, the watches, everything. Responsible for writing the watch bill, all those kind of things. So that was cool, you know. Went from when I first got in, you know, being where, you know, on the low totem to being the guy in charge on a duty day. Well, minus the officer. There's always an officer in charge. When you're enlisted, you're... wouldn't say you're a subspecies to the officers, but, you know, I had to salute, you know, junior officers that have been in the Navy all of 2 years and be deferential to them within reason. My other job as a chief was to teach those junior officers how to be officers. So it was kind of a give and take. It was a weird dynamic because you get put into divisions. So divisions usually make up a single type of MOS, you'd call it in most things, but for us it was a rating. So my rating was electronics technician, ET. So basically maintained and fixed things like radars and radios and stuff like that, all those electronic systems. And so I was in charge of all the ETs on the ship. So they were basically, I ran the division. And then you had like really usually a junior officer, either an ensign, which is basically brand new to the Navy.
Here you go.
Sometimes they get up to like JG, junior grade, which is a little bit more, but still, they're wet behind the ears. So, as a CPO or Chief Petty Officer, it was my job to run the division, but I also had to teach the officers how to officer. It's weird. Like I said, it's a weird dynamic, when you have to salute the guy, but at the same time, if he's being dumb, I can dress him down and yell at him. Really weird.
Master, we are not alone.
No, okay, cool. So it's military is interesting because it's all based on you'd call it muscle memory. So everything about it is you almost act like, it's very yes sir, no sir, you don't talk back. And, a lot of the younger kids coming in, like, why do I have to defer to you? And it's like, because someday you're going to be off the coast of China or some other place, where crazy stuff's happening. And, they got to be able to just respond instead of asking questions. But it's changing, like, it's like everything in, the new generation comes and it's like you have to change. So it's slowly happening. It went from, not telling them anything to explaining why they're doing what they're doing to, help not motivate them, but, give them pride in whatever it is that we're doing. So, I don't know. At the end, when I was getting out, it was just, I don't know. I loved my time in the service. I got to go to so many cool countries and places and port visits and stuff. That was the best part of it. But at the end, I was in charge of so much stuff. All the programs were run by chiefs and things. Oh yeah. And we learned that there's, the way that we were motivated is not the same way that the new generation is motivated. Whether it's the Gen Z or what's the new gen? We had Gen Z, Gen Y. I'm Gen X. But, like, there's a new one, and I forget what this brand new generation is called. It's like I don't know. Alpha, that's it. Yeah, Alpha. So I guess we're starting over, so eventually the next one will be Bravo. So, like, my twins, they just turned 16 today. Oh, my God. Still can't believe that. They're going to be driving soon. They haven't gotten their permits yet because they've been too lazy to study for the test that it takes to be able to get that in Washington. So at some point they're going to take their test, and then I gotta do what my dad did, and I'm terrified of it because I remember like one of the first times my dad took me out driving, I almost sideswiped a vehicle because I was so afraid of getting too close to oncoming traffic. I almost hit the car that was next to us on the shoulder. My dad was so freaked out. Oh, that's gonna be me. I know it's gonna be me. They're gonna do what kids do. And actually, the crazy part, I always thought it was gonna be the twins. One of the twins was gonna be the first one. But my oldest actually broke his arm.
I've got a bad feeling about
Had to have plates and screws and everything put in. First one of the kids to break something. Just surprising, because by the time I was their age, I'd already broken both my wrists. Yeah, I'd already broken both my wrists, one of my fingers, and one of my toes by the time I was that age. The wrists were, playing tag and falling headfirst off a slide and putting them out to catch me, and they kept my head from getting hurt, but they both snapped clean. Luckily, I was young, so I didn't really, couldn't imagine, as an older and having both of your arms stuck in casts and not hardly able to do anything. He didn't like the cast. They put him in the full shoulder cast, so you couldn't even move your arms or anything. And my oldest is highly functioning autistic, so he's Asperger's, but over the years he's really learned how to manage it well. Like in high school, he's a senior right now, but he's in normal classes. He's not in anything special anymore, which is awesome. But that whole thing, because they're very much about not repetition, but routine and things and stuff like that. So losing control, yeah, that was hard for him. And the worst part was going under on this anesthesia. He got really nervous, struggled with the IVs, and me and his mom basically had to sit there and kind of like tag team him and keep him occupied with other things in his mind, so he wasn't thinking about what was happening. Keep him looking at us while they put the IV in, and just a lot of stuff like that. But when he came out, like I didn't want to laugh at him, but it was, I don't know how many times he asked, "Are you real? Is this real? Is this happening?" He was so disoriented with the anesthesia. Poor guy. But now he's good. Like a couple things that he's done that blow me away, because of what he what I know about him, what he suffers from. But he's been wearing braces for like the last 3 years, and that I imagine had to be really hard to kind of get used to, like the first couple of months, having something in your mouth, limiting what you're allowed to eat, special things for cleaning. Yeah. I have used this place as a horde base so many times. It's so good. Like you can run. You put where the treasure chests are up there, or I always say treasure. The loot chests are up there. So I put like 2 ramps here that go down to the ground, and then another ramp that comes up to this point right here, and then that bar goes across, but then it ends in a wall with like the little fighting position and everything. And I can put like an electric fence post right on the outside here, and then run it across to where I am. And they all just get stuck on there, and if they do, they end up pushing each other off and fall down and stuff. It's such an easy setup for a horde base without having to do a ton. So this is a fun one I've done quite a few times. Is there anything in there? I don't think so. I think actually this was in this playthrough, was it my forest one or my desert one? This is the forest one. So this is my first horde base. My first horde base was the silos. Like the really giant silos up in the sky. Or up in the sky, like the 3 connected silos with the little walkway up there. So that was my first horde base, like the first horde night. And I just basically put bars on above the ladders coming up. And I was, shooting down, which worked really good until I ran out of ammo. And I couldn't hit through the bars. So I decided I was going to try to make something work, but I had to take the top off first. And as soon as I took the top off, I got overwhelmed. Died my first horde night. I don't remember the last time I actually died in a horde night like that early. Oh yeah. Oh man. But it was fun though. It was still fun. Yeah. Yeah, you were here for that. That's awesome. Yeah. Nowadays they're kind of, I wouldn't say boring, but they definitely. Yep. They're definitely a little less chaotic, we'll say. More controlled. Kind of that was what I did. So when I was playing the Rebirth mod, and it was like the Purge scenario. I don't know if you ever heard of that one. But you basically have to eliminate 75 or clear 75% of all the POIs in a biome before you get the inoculation or whatever that it lets you go into the next tier. So it's like the entire thing. It's like you're not doing any quests. There are no quests from the traders. Everything is just about going in and exploring all the POIs. The fun part about that was I got to go into so many POIs that I just forgot about because they, you know, you just get used to wherever the quest guys send you. That's where you go. So it was really fun being able to kind of
really
go
admire
back
you. I can't thank you
and
enough.
revisit some of those POIs that we never got to see. And on top of that, I decided to kind of give myself some extra self-imposed rules. So I had it set up that I could live in a POI until I got to 25%. At 25%, I had to be off the roof or whatever into a fully built horde base. So I had to kind of balance going out and doing POIs with actually gathering things and building the base. And each base had to be completely different. Each horde fighting thing had to be completely different. When I completed a biome and I was ready to go to the next one, I could only
I've
take
got a
what I
bad
could fit
feeling
in
about this.
myself or my pets or my one vehicle. I could take one vehicle and everything else had to be left behind, and I could never go back to my previous base. So it was interesting having after every horde, or I'm sorry, after I cleared a horde or a PO biome, having to decide what I was going to take with me and what I was going to leave behind. But I don't know, it made it kind of fun because I made some of the coolest base designs that I think I've ever made. Just because the first ones were kind of my normal stuff. Although the desert was interesting, I basically built a floating horde base. With just kind of the walls over the pit for the zombies to drop in was plates on the wall and plates on the base of the thing. So it was like it was there, but not really. And it looked really cool because I had this like really angled thing that it kind of came in on, and I don't know, it was fun. And it was the first one I got fully furnished and decorated, had power and lights to all the rooms and stuff. The snow one I built on the side of a mountain, and it was like a fortress kind of. It wasn't like the base was a fortress, but the house I built to live in was like those fancy new ones where everything's white and, you know, it's got lots of windows and stuff. So it was interesting. And then wasteland, and then the burnt fire biome. The wasteland ended up I kept saying to myself, this looks like it's a skyscraper, which was the dumbest thing I did because of course I had to then make it into a skyscraper. It was like 5 or 6 floors, and then I had to furnish every one of the floors like they were apartments and stuff, and then power them. It looked cool though. And then I just built this tank of a base for the burnt forest because the burnt forest was the hardest one.
My
Yeah,
senses
I have
picked
all the
up
videos
something.
on my on the YouTube and a playlist. If you want to see the horde bases, though, I did a world tour at the end where I went back and went through each one of the bases I built and stuff. It ended up being like an hour because it was, you know, it was a lot of stuff to go through, but actually getting kind of see all the different bases, like that the desert one really looked cool. I was kind of pleased, but yeah, I really liked that. Yeah, it was fun. And, you know, kind of challenging myself. And so after I finished that one, I'm like, you know, it was right after 2.0 came out, so trying to figure out what I could do while I waited for the mods. So I made I did a shotgun only series. So it was vanilla, but I could only use shotguns. I couldn't use any other weapons. The only caveat I gave myself was traps. So I could use traps or tools, like shovels and things. Man, those first probably 2 weeks worth of episodes were. It was rough. I was getting chased everywhere. Eventually, when I got to like the double, like the, you know, the enough of the pipe ones, I had like almost half of my hot bar was filled with pipe rifles that were loaded. So I would just scroll wheel to each one of them, you know, to make it like I actually had a shotgun with multiple. But man, by the time I got to the end, man, I was just stomping everything with the later weapons and stuff. It
Incoming
was fun.
enemies. Prepare for conflict.
And then I did a Darkness Fall. So while I was doing that, the shotguns only, I was actually on my streaming when I was playing Darkness Falls. Got to beat Devil, Lucifer. It's fun. I don't know. It's fun to kind of go back and check it out, but unfortunately, Kane, I don't know that he really does a lot of changes to it. He just makes it so the same mod works in the newer versions of the game. I don't know. I think it's such a lost opportunity because, you know, the way he designs everything and stuff. Like, if there was some kind of story to be told, that would be kind of cool. You know, lore. You know, some of the mods do it, but I haven't really seen anyone do it like fully. You know, instead of having the traders giving you, hey, go over to this place, clear it, come back and see me. You know, actually have literal stories going behind everything. I think the closest right now is the Project Z, which I've been playing. That's my current YouTube series, and you'll find a lot of quests inside things, and they're basically, you know, you're in the quarantine zone, but there's other people that are hurting, so you have this opportunity to make these supply packages that you can send over to them through this radio that you build, and then they'll send you back these like supply drops. So you know, instead of just a plane coming over every few days, you know, it kind of gives you, and then you have to defend. Holy cow, 4 antidotes! Oh, that's awesome. And so it sets it up like it's, and then they got like these mini bosses and then bosses, and the weapons go up to unique weapons and stuff with modifiers, which is another thing I didn't like about Darkness Falls. He puts in all these really cool unique weapons and stuff, but by the time you get them, you're using like lasers and things, and it doesn't even come close to, you know, being as much damage. So most of the best weapons, like the cool unique weapons, I never got to use because they were always less powerful than the stuff you were finding when you got to the point where you could loot them. So it'd have been cool, I think, if he made them a little bit stronger instead of just having the lasers be the end-all be-all. And then, of course, at the end, everything becomes a bullet sponge, and like that base I built up was like, it was so overkill, and I still end up having the succubuses, or the queen succubuses, still managed to break into it on that final horde night, because it was just they were crazy. I think I had 3 or 4 of them all at once that were fighting me. I mean, it was tension and, you know, me getting killed, which is good for, I guess, people watching.
Incoming enemies. Prepare for conflict.
I never get over that fact, how much people love to see you, like, my best stuff on YouTube is when everything goes wrong, and then everybody wants to watch that. It's like a car accident. People can't help but stop and watch. Yeah. And I say that, but I'm probably the same way too, though. Although I don't want to look, if it's something where someone got killed, or like even, I love football, but I cannot stand to watch when someone gets like badly hurt. You know, like their knee goes the wrong direction or something, and they keep showing the replays. Like, I have to like turn away. I get too queasy over stuff, so I would never have been a good nurse or EMT or anything. I don't want to see it. Don't want to see it at all. Oh, I almost maxed you up.
Executing shutdown procedure.
Oh, I didn't give you that much stuff. Oh, you wuss. Come here.
Startup sequence activated.
Here, 158. Oh, you can only do 153. Okay, I put too much stuff. All right, there you should be good now. All right, cool. Dude, so I've been, I go to the it's not, I mean, I do the VA too, but there's like a group, vet centers. So they're like a non-profit group for veterans and stuff, and they provide like help and counseling for, you know, people getting out, you know, PTSD and other different things like that, which is, you know, it's a cool thing they do. One of the things they do is they have these different groups, you know, to kind of help you with, and that's one of them that I've started doing is this guitar group where they teach you how to play guitar. And if you attend 10 sessions, they actually give you a free guitar, like which is, and it's a good guitar apparently. So the first few, you know, times I went there, I was just trying to learn chords. You know, it was hard enough for me just to learn like the chords and remember the chords, you know, because without having to look down at my hand and at the sheet of paper. But I got pretty good at I got pretty good at the chords and everything. So Friday, it's every Friday. And this last Friday, he actually gave me music to play, like a song. And he was right. He's saying it's easier when you're actually playing something other than just going back and forth and stuff. So it's like it's D, G, and A, you know, basically, you know, 3 chords mostly back and forth, but going back and forth is something I hadn't really done specifically, and then trying to kind of get the timing and stuff. Having a blast. I think that's the only thing that I have on my Instagram. I've got 2 videos where I recorded myself early. I need to do another one just to kind of show where I'm at right now, with especially with the song. My goal for playing, and the reason why I actually started this thing anyway, is my dad, whole time when I was growing up as a kid, he was a pastor, you know, so, but he would also a lot of times lead like the, you know, the singing part of the service and whatnot, and he would play guitar. Like, he would just do like the strumming of the chords and stuff. And he passed away last summer. So when they, you know, they said this was one of the groups that I could possibly do as this guitar group. For me, that was like, you know, it was almost like a no-brainer. Like, I don't do well with groups. I don't do well with people. With the exception of when you're on a computer and it's like not really people. So it's one of the things that I'm kind of working on. But you know, this is something that was for me was worth, you know, having, you know, getting in this group. And the whole goal that I want to do is I want by Christmas to be able to play like a song for my sisters when we get together. Because I don't know who has it, but someone has my dad's guitar. And I would love to actually have his guitar. That's like my whole end goal, is to get my dad's guitar, you know, so I can kind of play on it. Little connection back to him. So, been having fun though. You know, just... Yeah, no, I was kind of worried about it until he gave me this music that I've been playing on. I'm trying to remember who sings the song. Like, it's pretty, I guess there's like a few different songs that are fairly basic. Blowing in the Wind. So that's the one I'm working on. Blowing in the Wind. But yeah, it's... I think my dad, when I was really young,
Master,
you know, tried to teach me. He gave me some lessons and stuff. Yeah, I knew there's another guy back here. So, but I, you know, being a kid, and, you know, I think it hurt the fingers and stuff. Like, it's, I finally have the calluses now where I can play for longer periods of time. So it's just, and it's one more thing to add, you know, to do during my, you know, my free time. Which, surprising how much of my day actually gets taken up with both my YouTube and this. This one a little bit less, because when I put it on YouTube, I don't really edit it. I just break it up into 3 parts and try to find a nice little breaking point between them. And it's funny, like, I got a decent amount of people that watch those videos like the moment they come out. So you know, a lot of us that really enjoyed this, and you know, some people are just looking for, you know, like an actual long-term, you know, playing through of this and just watching and then experience it again. So
what do you see?
Fun times.
Friend?
All right, what's more expensive? That one, sure. So it's...
I'm in a little... Oh, thank you very much.
It's just fun. Like,
I'll
it's
make it worth your while.
But I do enjoy my weekends now. The way I set up my streaming days, so Monday through Thursday, so that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, what I'll usually do is I'll get a little bit of recording ahead of time set up so that I can actually watch football on the weekends. I am a huge football fan, so both college and NFL. So it's nice to be able to, on those couple days, relax, and then Monday comes back and I'm right back in it. So I am waiting and you know, really looking forward to getting some of the new mods out, which is why I've really been enjoying the Project Z. I think that they did a really good job on that one. So I'm having a lot of fun playing that one. Wait, did I fill up the, I did. Okay, I need to instead do this by weight. Oh, everybody's coming already. Okay, there we go. So yeah, that's been a fun one.
I've
But
got a
I
bad
really,
feeling
I
about
really
this.
am chomping at the bit for 2 specific mods though. Undead Legacy 2.7 by far is the one I'm wanting to play the most. Nice. Oh yeah, yeah. And it was this year. It wasn't it was like 2 years ago. So their last year in middle school, they actually played football. It's like it's something they wanted to do for a long time, and I really wanted to to let them get into it because when I was their age, I don't think I liked football that much. It was something that kind of came later. No, it would have been younger than that because the reason I hated college football is because that was usually the end of my cartoons on Saturday morning. Back before, he had entire things like a cartoon channel and stuff like that. Yeah. Oh man, Fraggle Rock early in the morning. Yeah, those are the days. But yeah, they actually were playing. They were behind, obviously. Kids that have been playing since Pee Wee and whatnot. So they mostly when they got put in, it was like blocking and stuff like that. But it was still fun to go to their games and everything. The one thing they have kind of kept up on, and they're really finally paying off for them is bowling. I always enjoyed bowling.
Master, we are
I've
not
bowled
alone.
league multiple different times. So when we were still in San Diego, there was this big and little league they called it. So it was 2 kids and 2 adults, which was perfect. So me and wow, this thing's almost fully repaired. Chris, he's another chief in the Navy. His wife was my ex's best friend. Oh, he's still on an engine. Yeah. But he played with us and he was into it too. So we finally got them their own balls, and they would do the two-handed, which there was some people that was there to kind of help and teach them that. But they would get frustrated because they could, they'd never beat me because I've been bowling for years, and I knew it was going to happen. They are way better than I am now. They started their new league about 3 weeks ago, and the very first week, the older of the twins, older as in minutes older, he's always been kind of behind his brother. He's a lot. Everything, I wouldn't say it comes easy, but natural. He's very naturally athletic in sports and stuff. So he was like the quicker one, but say John is. It takes him longer to get something, but when he gets it, he actually gets it. So it's not like, good at everything, but not a master of none or whatever that is. So John has learned how to be really consistent with his throw, which is kind of one of the things it took forever because they would just kind of, throw a lot of spin on the ball, and sometimes it would hit, sometimes it would make it. Most of the time it wouldn't, and then they'd be kind of frustrated. He's gotten really good. So his very first series he bowled, which really kind of messed him up because it's not his normal one. He got a 196 average. I was like, the best I ever had for an average was like 176. I'm like, oh man, you actually are better than me now. And he's maybe a half an inch away from me and taller than me, and every time we see each other, he has to measure to see if he got taller than me yet. Like I know he's gonna rub it in my face as soon as it happens. Oh. Well, the thing is it's just practice, And the funny thing is what got me into bowling in the first place, and it was before I joined the Navy. We were at a bowling alley, and we would go there often because Tuesdays and Thursdays it was dollar night. So this was like 25 years ago, so it would have been like, about 2000. And it was dollar night as in dollar shoes, dollar bowling, dollar hot dogs, and dollar beers. So of course, a bunch of youngins like us, that was like perfect. So yeah, so we would go there and we just, we were there mostly to have the dollar beers and stuff and have fun. But we started getting good. And so they encouraged us to come join a league and stuff. So we named our team Laid Back, but it was LAID back, because when you're kids, it's all about being. Everything had to have some kind of innuendo. And our one buddy, Turkey, we called him Turkey because of Wild Turkey, the drink. He was actually a really good bowler. I think his average was over 200. Like, he was actually legit a good bowler. So he was kind of like our anchor. And then one of the guys that worked there, we became kind of good friends. So he started bowling with us, and he was a super high. So that very first season that we bowled as a team, we actually won. And that was back when I got up to about a 176 average. I was my best series ever was a 650 something, and I had gotten my best game ever at that bowling alley too. It was like a 279 or something like that. I used to keep the score sheet in my wallet, but eventually I couldn't read it anymore. But I only had one missed strike, and it was like a 9 something. I think it was either the beginning or the end. It might have been 2. But yeah. So that's how I got into it. So when my kids wanted to bowl, like, I was awesome. I was excited about that. And the other thing I actually got to do, and this is kind of, there's some things that you do with your, oh my gosh, I'm not paying attention, that I did with my dad, or my dad did with me when I was a kid. And one of them was Little League. So I got to actually coach my kids in Little League for a couple years. It's funny because the first year we took them, it was like the young coach pitch league, and it was their first ever experience playing football or baseball. And I remember the league would have like this big ceremony at the beginning where they would announce the teams and which team that your kids got put on. And like the upper, the minors and the majors, that was a bigger thing because they had to do like actual drafts and things. But the age group my kids were in, that wasn't like a thing we had to do. And I remember that, we met there with the guy who was in charge of that section of the Little League, and we're waiting to see our coach. And this guy comes out and he's like, "Yeah, so we're hurting on coaches, but we identified someone that's going to make a really good coach." And he's like, he's in the military. His ex-wife is. I'm sitting there going, "That sounds a lot like me." Oh, it is me. So like, I had no idea, but they basically right off the bat decided I was going to be the coach of the team that my kids were on. So it was, their very first time playing baseball. I was there right there coaching with them, and I remember my dad did it on purpose, and I almost messed it up because he didn't tell me. Like, it was kind of a secret that I was going to play baseball that year. So he had worked it with the league, and so they had called at some point when they weren't there, and they asked him about my dad coaching or something like that. I was like, "No, he's not coaching," and I told him about that, and he had to call him back and fix it because for a little while they was off it. So he was my first coach. So it was kind of cool getting to be my kid's first coach. And they were actually got really good towards the end. Like the other teams were, because again, Josh was like the quick early learner, and John was a little bit slower, but he was a really good catcher. And in Little League, there's always pass balls, and so every time they have a bad throw, it's always steal bases, steal home. The coaches started telling their kids, "Do not steal home when my son is the catcher." He was quick, and he was fearless, and he would meet them at the ball, and it's like he had so many outs on that when normally it wasn't a thing. And Josh has started getting better at catching or pitching. So the summer before COVID, or the summer of COVID, the spring of COVID. So, because like the next year we had split them up because we've always tried for the twins not to have them together in school classes or anything, just so that they were never, why aren't you as good as your brother, or your brother does this. So they got to kind of make their own friends, make their own, But so I let one of my sons get coached by another team. I hated it. It sucks, not having them there. So that next year I had them both. And at that point, I became like the manager of the entire summer league. Like I had really gotten involved in there after they made me a coach. And so I got actually voted to be a member of the board and all that stuff. And man, I had everything planned. You know, we did like 4 weeks of practice before COVID hit. And I was doing all these really cool drills with the kids, and I was actually taking my sons. I was giving them professional lessons at this place down in San Diego. You know, they were learning how to be better pitchers, better hitters. You know, I was like, this was going to be that year.
Here is your reward.
And like a week before opening is when COVID hit. Everything got shut down, and it's like I lost that whole season. And then we moved from San Diego up to Washington, because my ship got sent up here for like some repair stuff, and we got up here too late to get him in that league, and then the next year, so it's like they missed out. But I really wish that we could have that COVID hadn't hit, that we could have actually played that season, because I think they would have made it to All Stars. You know, they were really starting to pick it up, and that would have been something they could have played in high school and things. But you know, it doesn't always work out the way we'd like it to. But again, I got bowling, which is something I can do with them.
My
like
senses have picked
softball,
up something.
I'm getting to the point where like me running on bases on softball, I could maybe get to first base, and I need a substitute runner. Football, you know, we can play catch and all, but my shoulders there, so it's fun to be able to share that one with them. All right, how much weight do I have on me now? I got so much weight now. I was able to really get some good gear. Oh yeah, I didn't show that. I found this enforcer vest. Chest, right? Yeah. It's like adds like 50 weight limit to my to my character by itself, so I can carry like now like 340 pounds almost. Yeah. Definitely where I would normally be getting completely unable to move now. I actually move pretty good. What is it? Today's 55, so tomorrow, so basically tomorrow night's gonna be Horde night. Nice. I gotta do a couple changes. Did you see my last Horde night? The failure that my base was? I was so cocky about it too. Oh, come on. Yeah. So it's the one I'm living in right now. And to kind of make it easier to connect to, I had a cop spit right at me, and it destroyed my my fence post. So they all started running, and because they were on
we are not
sprint,
alone.
my little design for the little corner design thing I did absolutely failed. So they were all getting straight to the my hatch, and and my hatch wasn't a very strong hatch. It was literally like, it wasn't the vault hatch. So I'm over there repairing it over and over as I'm trying to shoot them as they get up. I mean, I made it through the Horde night, which was cool, but boy, I was touch and go. Which, definitely made it interesting to watch, I'm assuming. And adrenaline, lots of adrenaline. Alright. I should check all these things for medical stuff. What was I looking for the other time? I needed something. Something specific that was medical for one of my upgrades or something like that. Beaker! That's right, I needed the beaker. So I came to like this exact POI. It took me... I was going through all the things, like almost at the end I was about to give up, and then I finally found it. Which was... yeah. Alright, why is all these doors open? I did start the quest. Yep, I just had to clear it. The fun pimps make everything linear, so trying to follow their things so you don't miss anybody.
My senses
Seems like this one
have
has
picked up
multiple openings, so it always makes me nervous. I'm gonna go the wrong direction and have to go back and try to figure out where the guys I missed are. So you said you were. What are you playing right now? I don't think I asked you that. If I did, I forgot already. My goldfish memory. I think now I drop down. I think it sends me back up to the other side. I think I got all the bad guys on this side. Okay, gotcha. I thought I'd ask, but I didn't know if I just forgot what the answer was. There we go. We can both play with our goldfish brains. Was it Dory in Finding Nemo? It's funny. I know all the cartoons from about 10 years ago, and I know nothing about them, the new ones. You know, it's like once my kids got to the age where they stopped watching cartoons, I have no clue anymore. But there was definitely that time when, oh man, I don't know how many times I watched Lightning McQueen. What was it, Cars? Yeah. Some of those games they just had on constant repeat. Although one of the ones
Master,
I did watch
we are not alone.
that I probably never would have realized if you know if it weren't for them. Playing anything, I played WoW Ascension with my buddy last night. Very World of Work. Is that the new one? Because Ren was asking me if I'd tried playing that one yet. I had not. I think he was trying to see. It sucks having someone that's knows all the things but doesn't tell you them. I mean, I will say one thing. It's nice to be in on the friends and family part of Blizzard. So I get in on all the alphas when they come out. So previously, every one of the World of Warcraft expansions, I'd always at least try them out. And I went back and replayed the one with like the trolls and I forget which one it was. Oh, alternate clone with some variations. Interesting. Okay. Now, what I did enjoy though, was the vanilla one. What do they call it? Oh, classic. With some tweaks. Yeah, I don't remember the last time I paid for a WoW subscription. Every year for Christmas, Ren gives me like a couple of like 3 or 4 12-month passes. I don't have to worry about it. There was one year where I was trying to get my kids and my ex in playing World of Warcraft together, like having like a ready-built team. They didn't like the party system. They just wanted to go off and do stuff, so it never really worked out. But at least I could play for free. But after I played Classic up through about halfway into Wrath. I'd actually got really lucky and found this really good guild. And I had never really done much raiding when I actually played, because I started playing World of Warcraft during Vanilla. So I knew what Molten Core was. I'd gone in a couple times, but never was able part of it cleared. And I think I had one time where I got to go into Blackwing Lair, but we didn't even get past the initial dragons and everything. So playing with this guild, I actually got to full clear everything in Vanilla, in Burning Crusades, and then I ended up, I don't know, it was becoming a job. So it stopped being fun, you know, because everything was about, you know, min-maxing and doing all this other stuff. So I kind of finally stepped away. But it was fun. Like, I actually getting to go through the progression and, you know, gear and all the other stuff. Because I had a buddy
I've got a bad feeling
at the
about
time,
this.
and he was in a guild that got to do everything. So, you know, Sunwell, all those things. It was fun to finally be able to do what I did. 'Cause the min-maxing is, yeah, and especially in like the first one when they actually started you having to go get all the buffs before you went in and did the different raids and stuff. Like I said, it was just, for me, it was finally getting to see them. And, you know, after that, like, you know, retail, that's what we call like the current version of stuff, they started really watering things down so that you could just do an LFG looking for group and do all the raids. I think that's when, you know, a lot of people, like the hardcore ones, wanted to go back to vanilla. It just got too easy, you know. And if all you're trying to do is see the lore, yeah. I wish I could have been caught more with Diablo 4 though, because I tried Diablo 3 when it came out, and I played through the story, but I never really got into it with any of the seasons and everything. And 4 came out, and I did play a few of the seasons, but it never really quite grabbed me. Ooh, that's a nice. It never quite grabbed me like Diablo 2. And my whole PC story actually started with Diablo. I didn't have a computer. Like, when I was younger, my parents had a Texas Instrument computer, and I messed around with that. I actually even started programming on it. It was kind of, fun, basic. But it ended up breaking
Master,
when we
we
were
are not
moving
alone.
from Wisconsin up to Alaska. So I went for years without a computer, because they weren't gonna buy one then. So I went to we were at my uncle's house. He lives in Minneapolis, and he had this game on his computer, and it was the original Diablo. And I started playing that night, and I think I didn't go to bed till like 2 or 3 in the morning. It was just like such a game changer from any game I'd ever played. Even to this day, it's still like one of those all-time classic games. So when I, graduated, because it was my senior year, but I ended up graduating early because my grandfather had cancer. And so the whole family was going to take a trip down to Minnesota and see him. But they couldn't afford to keep the house that they were renting, so they actually moved everything into storage. So pretty much it's like, come with us or go find your own place to live. So I graduated early, went down, and that's while I was staying at my uncle's house while we were down there. So when I came up, I'd say about a year and a half later, I ended up moving down to Oregon on my own. And when I got my house there, that's not where I'm supposed to be going. I get caught up in these stories and I forget where I'm going. So moved to Oregon, had my own place and everything, and I bought I think it was a Hewitt Packard. It had like a Pentium 2 in it. I think that's how old this is, a Pentium 2 processor.
I've got a bad
That's because I
feeling
wanted to
about
play
this.
I wanted to play Diablo, and it was actually the origin of my my game name. I originally went by Dice because I was, in board games I rolled really well, so they called me Dice. And I ended up getting into a guild for Battle.net. It was such a weird time back then because Battle.net had chat groups, and that's where these different guilds would gather and talk and chat and everything like that. And you could kick people out, but you always had to have someone in there, because if you got out of that channel and someone that you didn't want came in, they could take it over. And it was a weird battle thing. I think it was they were hackers too, and I don't know, it was just a weird thing that I got into. They're the Fallen Lords, FL. So everybody and their name had an FL in front of it. So I was FL Dice, Fallen Lords Dice. And I don't know, just at some point it started to, instead of FL Dice, it became Fallen Dice. Over the years, but I still know a couple of those guys that, years later. But it went from Diablo to StarCraft, the original StarCraft. And then from there, StarCraft 2, they all had gotten Brood Wars.
I owe you one.
And so I was, for a while, unable to play with them. Until I could get that one, and I had to go buy a whole new game for it. But then they ended up moving to another game. And that was Ultima Online. That was my very first MMORG. And that game sucked me in for years. Like, I was playing that non-stop for years until EverQuest. And then I was playing that game for years. I don't remember what it was. I think it was while I was in the Navy. Maybe at my first shore duty. And someone convinced me to make a character on World of Warcraft. And we all had to be Pokemon names. So I was Metapod. I didn't even know what Metapod was because I never played Pokemon. it ended up just being a blast, you know, and that was my game for about 6 years. And I was always one game kind of guy, which is why I like the fact that now, oh, I didn't do that, did I? I did. Dang it. So now I'm able to play multiple games. No, I totally did, and I got in early on all of them, you know. In fact, on Ultima Online, I'd actually, after years and years, I, what's the word? Put myself forward, not nominated, but I put my name in to be one of the, not the GMs, but the step down from the GMs that would go around and deal with problems and stuff like that. And I actually passed the test with my knowledge and everything. So I was actually in the chat rooms with all the GMs and stuff, and we'd go through and try to find cheaters, and it was interesting, you know. And that was right before I found EverQuest. But yeah, I definitely went down that rabbit hole. So, but it was all incremental, you know. They each one was better than the next, but they built on each other. And from what I understand, Ultima is still a thing out there. People still play Ultima Online. I don't remember what it was that got me into Heroes of Might and Magic, but that was another one that I did. And my parents ended up later on getting into that game, and they played it as much as I ever did. Like, I remember being a kid and being told, you know, I play games too much, and my parents became me after a while. Actually, there's a few things where, you know, over time it was like recognizing how things had changed. Think it was maybe a year or two before I joined the Navy, and my dad had come up to visit, and we went to a bar to shoot pool, and I had my first beer with my dad. Not my first beer, but the first time I actually shared a beer with my dad. You know, and it was just, I don't know, it was one of those kind of cool moments. And it showed his, you know, way he had changed, because his mom, my grandma, was a very, call it, strict religious kind of person. Like, I remember growing up, we couldn't play with playing cards because playing cards were used for gambling. So it's almost like if you ever watched Waterboy, you know, like the mom in Waterboy, dude, it was the weirdest thing. And then afterwards, later on, I would go visit them, and they would have beers in the fridge for me. Like, it was such a, you know, a change, a unique change. Yeah, it's like, you know, when I was young, though, it seemed like it was that, like, the mom character from Waterboy, you know, football, that's the devil, you know, that kind of thing. I think the first movie I ever got to see in the theater was when they re-released Snow White. And it was still for my dad, it was a hard thing to do, because that was another thing with my grandma. You didn't go to the movie theaters, you know, all these weird, crazy rules. And, you know, as a kid, you know, that was just, for me, that was just the way things were. So we ended up, back in the day, you could rent VHS players, and then you could get VHS tapes. And I remember first time I got to watch The Karate Kid and Back to the Future and Pinocchio. Yeah, you know, it's like those harmless Disney movies. But, you know, I was watching Back to the Future. Oh, man. Because I remember when two movies I remember that came out that I wished I could have seen in the theater, but that was still back when my parents wouldn't let me. Yeah, yeah. So the first one, when I was really young, was Star Wars. And I remember my cousins going to see Star Wars, and I couldn't go see them, and they came back talking about this amazing movie. Like, can you imagine being able to go to the Star Wars when it first came out in the theaters and experiencing that? And then The Karate Kid. I remember going to church, you know, that week after it had come out, and all my friends talking about, you know, playing moves and doing like the crane thing and stuff. Yeah. You know, and wishing I could have seen it. So when my parents finally rented the VHS, and I remember they let me get a PG-13 movie, which so I must have been around 13 that age, and getting to watch it finally, which is kind of cool. And then the weird one. So I remember, you know, everyone has that moment where their dad tells them about the birds and the bees. And I remember it very, very vividly, because he took me, it was like we had like this night where we got to get away from the house, and my three sisters. I was the oldest, of 4 kids, but it was 3 sisters, so it was kind of like a guys' night. So we went, and he got at this motel down the road. It was cool. It had 2 beds and a TV with cable, and we got to watch movies. I remember watching Revenge of the Ninja, and to this day I never can seem to find it, but it was like one of those cool, like you know back in the day, mystical power kind of ninja things, and Red Dawn. And to this day, Red Dawn is like one of those. It's got a place in my heart, not just because it's a friggin' great movie, but it just reminds me of that night that I got to spend with my dad, away from my sisters, just 2 dudes watching movies, eating junk food. Such a fun night.